You're listening to All Things Sports with Mike Davis.
Hey, what is going on, everybody? Glad you can join me on another podcast of All Things Sports with Mike Davis. I thank you for including my podcast into your day. If you're listening on Spotify, please go ahead, follow the podcast. If you're on YouTube, same thing. Comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Go to the Facebook page to get in contact with the show for comments or any suggestions. I won't take up much more of your time. Let's get into it. All right, so the weekend is just about over. And before I get into today's topic, I wanted to talk about a television show that I watch. Is anybody watching Snowfall? Am I the only one still watching Snowfall? And I must say, this season is a lot better than last season, in my opinion. I really didn't care much for last season. But this season has been filled with its up and downs of pretty much each and every character. And I'm on the edge of my seat. I'm waiting to see. I can't wait to see what happens in these final episodes. I think it's 2 more episodes left. But there are some things where some of the characters in the show where it has come time to make drastic decisions, such as Franklin Saint. You know, is it time for him to bail out? You know, but that would be hard to do, being that, you know, he's really working under Reed. But look, I'm not going to give any spoilers away. But if you watched the show and then you saw what happened with Jerome and his situation with his wife. But look, great show. I love Snowfall. I just wanted to know if I'm the only one out there that is keeping up with Snowfall. I am waiting for the next 2 episodes. I can't wait. I will be tuned in. All right, so let's get into the real reason why we are here. I want to know, should the Tampa Bay, excuse me for that, but I want to know, should the Tampa Bay Buccaneers retire Tom Brady's number? Now, the NFL is real particular about retiring numbers and putting players in the ring of honor. I believe there are only 3 teams who do not retire numbers. I know my Atlanta Falcons are one of those teams. They don't retire numbers. They just put your number into the ring of honor. I want to say the Cowboys are the other team. I could be wrong, so don't quote me on that. But I think the Cowboys are one of the other teams that they don't retire numbers. So if Tom Brady was to have his number retired by the Bucs, that would make him only one of 2 players. There's only one other player who has his number retired by 2 teams. I thought that Peyton Manning would get his number retired by the Broncos, but there's a situation that I read about where that won't happen, and I'll get into that in a second. But the only player to have his number retired by 2 teams is the great late Reggie White. Now, he had his number retired by the Eagles and the Packers. Now, Peyton Manning, who I just talked about, now he received an acknowledgement when the Denver Broncos retired. They re-retired the number 18, which is officially retired under the name of, and forgive me if I pronounce his last name wrong, but Frank Tapuka. Now, before he passed, he granted Peyton Manning a special exception to wear the number 18. Now, I had to find out exactly who Frank Tripucka was. Again, forgive me if I'm pronouncing his last name wrong. I never heard of him until now. So I wanted to see what his story was in the NFL. So Frank Tripucka started all 14 games in Denver's inaugural 1960 season, and although he led the league in interceptions in 1960 with 34 interceptions, which still is today a Broncos franchise record. He also led the league in passing with 3,038 yards. He is the first man to throw for 3,000 yards in a season by either an NFL or an AFL quarterback, to go with 24 touchdown passes, including the first touchdown pass in AFL history. Now, I looked up what he did in the league, and by today's standards, I don't want to trash, the guy, but the numbers weren't great. They just weren't great at all. You can go look them up yourselves. But it seems this is the only reason why his number is retired in the first place by Denver, because he pretty much was their, he was their first starting quarterback in the history of the Broncos. He was the first QB to throw for 3,000 yards in the NFL or AFL. And, think about it. He threw 34 interceptions, which is a Broncos franchise record. We just got on Jameis Winston, who can't get a multi-year deal for leading the league in interceptions the same year he led the league in passing. So look at that. It's crazy how you look at one error one way, and then you come back and you look at another error another way. That's crazy to me, because we bashed Jameis Winston, who I believe is on another one-year deal with New Orleans. I would have went to Pittsburgh if I was him, but that's neither here nor there. But you have Frank Tripucka, who has his number retired, and he put up some of the not so greatest stats of all time. It just is what it is. All right, now let's go back to Tom Brady. Now, with Tom Brady, let's go back to just last season. Remember, after losing to the Kansas City Chiefs, the Buccaneers were 7-5. Remember, they were in danger of missing the playoffs completely, and everybody was bagging on Tom Brady. Everybody. But late in the season, he became Tom Terrific. The Buccaneers got things together. They won their last 4 games to climb to the playoffs with the 5th seed in the NFC, which meant they were going to have to go on the road the entire playoffs. Okay? So they followed their season with 3 straight playoff road wins, making them the first team in history to play a Super Bowl on its own home field at Raymond James Stadium. Now, Brady is going to be playing for, I say Brady plays for at least another 2 seasons. So I believe that's when his contract runs out, in the end of 2022. So he'll have this year, 2021. Yeah. So he'll play at least 2 more years. So let's look at Tom Brady's last 2 seasons in Tampa, and then the last in New Orleans. In New England, I said New Orleans, I'm sorry. In New England, I'm sorry, I apologize. But in New England, he threw for 4,057 yards. Tampa, 4,600 yards. Last year in New England, only 24 touchdown passes. Last year in Tampa, 40 touchdown passes. Last year in New England, 8 picks. Last year in Tampa, 12 picks. Now, we got on him about the interceptions, but the 12 picks, the 40 touchdowns, and the yardage is not bad. So that means he's slinging the ball around, and 12 picks isn't bad. I'm not mad at the 12 picks. I remember when people were getting on him about the picks as well. But his QBR was only 88 in his last season in New England, and his QBR was 102 last season in Tampa. Now, I wasn't sure. I was on the fence, and my brother broke it down to me, and I'm going to steal his thunder. He said if the Bucs run it back this year and they win the Super Bowl, they can retire Tom Brady's number in Tampa. Other than that, let the New England Patriots have that. Now, I believe the Patriots are going to retire his number anyway. You can, if you're New England, you have no choice. You have to retire Tom Brady's number once he's done playing. And even before that, guess what? No one in New England is wearing number 12 ever again. That number is sacred. Even if, let's say they get a guy who wears number 12. Guess what? You are not wearing number 12 here in New England. So I agree also with my brother. I think that Tampa runs it back. They retire. I don't even think they have to win it all. If he gets them to another Super Bowl, if he gets them to another one, they don't even have to win the Super Bowl. If he gets Tampa to another one, just in a Super Bowl appearance, they retire his number. So those are my thoughts on should the Tampa Bay Buccaneers retire Tom Brady's number. So I got nothing today on the history in sports. So unfortunately, that's all I got for you today, folks. I thank you for including my podcast into your day. If you're listening on Spotify, follow the podcast. If you're on YouTube, subscribe, comment, like, all that good stuff. Go to the Facebook page to get in contact with the show for comments, for suggestions. You've been listening to All Things Sports with Mike Davis. And remember, it's your world. I'm just giving my opinion. I'm out. Peace.
You're listening to All Things Sports with Mike Davis.